paralyzed Marine whispered one last command to his dog. What the German shepherd did stun the entire hospital. The fluorescent lights of room 312 buzzed faintly overhead, casting a pale, sterile glow across the quiet hospital corridor. Most of the building had already settled into its midnight silence. In the East Wing, where the long-term Veterans Care Unit resided, the halls were dim, the only movement coming from the slow sweep of a janitor's mop or the quiet shuffle of an overnight nurse. Inside room 312, Logan Rhee lay still in bed, his body half raised by a mechanical support wedge, a thin sheet covering his lower half. Beneath that sheet, nothing moved. He had not felt anything below his waist in over 8 months. Not since the explosion in Kandahar ripped through his convoy and stole the function of his spine. Doctors called it a miracle that he had survived. Logan never called it anything. Beside his bed, a weathered German shepherd slept curled on an old army-issued blanket. His coat was thin in places, his ribs faintly visible beneath the fur. One ear bore a jagged scar. He was far from his prime. Slower, leaner. A ghost of the elite explosive detection dog he once was. But his name still carried the weight of everything he had once done. Axel. Logan's breath came, slow and rhythmic, until something shifted in the air. A sound. Soft. Too soft. The door handle turned. Click. Logan's eyes opened immediately. Not wide. Not panicked, just enough. A silhouette entered. Tall and smooth in movement. A nurse by the look of the uniform. But Logan knew the staff. He knew their shapes, their walks, the way they moved when they did not know. Someone was watching. This one was too careful, too fluid. No clipboard, no soft footsteps. The lights were not turned on. That was the first confirmation. Logan tried to reach for the emergency button on the side of his bed, but his arm had been secured loosely by a physical therapy strap, tucked under a rolled towel. He shifted slightly, but the angle made it impossible. The figure moved closer. A second one entered behind the first. They were not carrying medical equipment. Their shoes made no sound. Logan's heart rate spiked, but his face remained still. He turned his head slightly toward the corner of the room. Axel. The dog's ears twitched. One eye open, then the other. Their eyes met. Logan's voice was barely audible, just a whisper. Code black. In an instant, Axel was up. He did not bark. Not yet. He rose silently to all fours, his body low, tail straight, every muscle drawn, taut like a bowstring. The second figure turned as if startled by something unseen. Axel took 2 steps forward, slow and measured, the deep growl rising from his chest like a warning bell before a storm. The first man reached into his coat. Axel exploded forward. The growl became a roar as his claws scraped the tile floor, his jaws snapping as he launched toward the nearest threat. The man shouted, stumbling backward, knocking into a tray table. A metal tray clattered loudly to the ground. Logan did not move. He could not, but he watched everything. The first man raised a hand, something metallic flashing in his palm. Axel barreled into him, hitting his chest with the full weight of 100 pounds of fury and muscle. The man screamed as he toppled over, crashing into the floor. Beside the bed, the second man spun, reaching for something in his belt. Axel turned, skidding across the floor as he positioned himself between Logan and the intruder. He bared his teeth, ears flat, eyes locked onto the man's every move. Then Axel lunged again. This time his jaws found fabric and flesh. The second man howled in pain as Axel dragged him back, teeth clamped just below the wrist, preventing the knife from fully drawing. The attacker struck Axel with his free hand. Once, twice, but Axel did not let go. Logan reached out, grabbing the phone from the bedside table with his one free hand, yanking it down and hitting the emergency code 3 times. Behind the locked door, footsteps began to rush. The attackers struggled harder, trying to break free, but Axel held tight, his body battered but immovable. Just before the door burst open with Security and staff. Logan looked at his dog, now bloodied, breathing heavy but still standing. "Good boy," he whispered, his voice. And in Axel's burning eyes, he saw not a pet, not a patient, but a soldier still serving, still protecting, even when his handler could no longer walk. 3 years earlier, the sun baked the ground in southern Helmand Province, Afghanistan, turning the terrain into a shimmering wasteland of dust and invisible threats. Sergeant Logan crouched behind the broken wall of a stone compound, sweat dripping into his eyes beneath the rim of his helmet. His team moved like whispers around him. No one spoke. No one needed to. Beside him, Axel held still. The German shepherd's ears flicked. His breath was measured. His eyes scanned the rubble with the same intensity Logan had seen in seasoned scouts. Axel was not just a detection dog. He was a specialist in identifying improvised explosive devices, trained for months under fire conditions to detect traces of chemicals, pressure, plates, tripwires. That day, Axel saved lives. They had been advancing on a suspected weapons cache when Axel halted. Mid-step, nose to the ground, tail rigid. Without barking, he circled once, then sat. That was the signal. Logan's hand shot up. His team froze instantly. 6 inches from the path ahead, buried beneath a thin veil of soil, was a pressure-activated explosive device large enough to rip through a tank tread. They would have walked directly over it. After they marked the site and cleared a safe path, Logan knelt and whispered, "Good boy." Axel did not react. He never needed praise, but Logan always said it anyway. The mission continued, and so did Axel. He cleared another 3 compounds that week, but on their final sweep, a secondary device hidden behind a door frame went undetected. It detonated after the squad had breached. Axel was thrown into a wall. He lay still. Logan did not hesitate. Amid the shouts and dust and gunfire, he ran through the debris, dropped to his knees beside the unconscious dog, and checked for breathing. There was blood on Axel's side. His leg was twisted unnaturally. Logan gathered him in his arms, shielding him with his body as another round of gunfire lit up the compound. Later, in the field tent, the medics said Axel might not walk again. He was tagged as unfit for service, no longer deployable. Logan filled out the paperwork himself. He took Axel home. From that moment on, they were no longer Sergeant and Can. They were just 2 wounded soldiers, one on 2 feet, the other on 4, trying to remember how to exist outside the noise. In the long months that followed, Logan continued training Axel, not for war but for preparedness. Some habits never died, and in that training he reintroduced a command he had created during a Black Ops mission years before. Code Black. It was a failsafe, a command that meant, "This is not a drill. I cannot speak more. Act based on instinct. Use everything I have ever taught you." Logan used it once in Kandahar when he had been pinned by sniper fire. Axel, acting on the command alone, had slipped behind the rubble and drawn attention long enough for Logan to reposition and return fire. It had saved the entire unit. But after the injury that paralyzed Logan from the waist down, after the months of rehabilitation, after being moved to the Veterans Hospital, that command had gone unused until tonight. And Axel, older, slower, visibly worn, had responded in less than a second. Because to Axel, it was never just a word. It was a promise. It was purpose. And even after years of silence, he had never forgotten. The room erupted in chaos the moment Axel lunged. His body collided with the first man's chest, teeth sinking into the thick fabric of the medical coat. A muffled grunt escaped the attacker as he stumbled backward, his hand instinctively moving inside the coat. But Axel was faster. With a force that defied his lean, tired frame, he twisted midair and bit down hard. A metallic object clattered to the floor. "A firearm!" the man screamed, toppling into a bedside cabinet, arms flailing as Axel pinned him to the linoleum. Blood bloomed beneath the dog's paws as his jaws clamped down with surgical precision, not to kill, but to disable. The second man appeared in the doorway. Taller, younger, dressed the same, but this one moved differently, more deliberate. His hand dropped behind his back. Axel released the first man with one sharp growl, pivoting in an instant. He darted into the hallway, claws scraping on the tile, eyes locked on the glint of metal emerging from the attacker's waistband. The man raised a knife, but Axel did not go for him. Not yet. Instead, he darted past, skidding to a halt beneath a bright red box mounted on the wall outside the room. The emergency response alarm. Without hesitation, he reared up on his hind legs, slamming one paw against the plexiglass, then the other. It cracked, then gave way. Axel struck the silver lever inside with his shoulder. The alarm blared through the hospital. A high-pitched wail. Red strobes began to flash along the corridor. Inside room 3 and 12, Logan pressed his weight against the bed rail. His left arm was still strapped. He reached across his body, with his right elbow twisting his wrist, to slam it against the emergency button, built into the side panel. He missed. Once, then again. The third time he struck home. A second alarm activated. Locked down. Across the facility, the automated security system kicked in. Hallway doors sealed with magnetic locks. Staff were alerted. Security. Cameras turned toward the east wing. Police dispatch was notified. Axel, meanwhile, turned to face the second intruder. The man lunged forward, blade raised. Axel met him mid-charge, colliding with his knees and sending him spinning. The knife sliced downward in panic, catching Axel across the shoulder. A deep gash tore through fur and skin. The dog yelped, but only once. He did not fall. Instead, Axel growled low and wrapped his jaws around the attacker's forearm, biting until the man dropped the weapon with a cry of pain. Blood splattered the wall. The man punched wildly, trying to shake Axel off, but the German shepherd held on, legs shaking, muscles taut like cords. In the hospital's control room, security personnel watched in stunned silence as cameras zoomed in on the brawl unfolding. In the East Wing, one recognized Logan's name. Another called for immediate tactical response. Back in the room, Logan lay still, eyes wide, heart pounding. He could not move. He could not help, but his dog was still fighting, still protecting, still obeying the command he had whispered in desperation. Code black. A full minute passed before armed security burst into the hallway. Get the dog off him, one shouted, unsure whether Axel was friend or foe. No, Logan shouted from inside the room, voice finally loud. He's with me. The guards hesitated just long enough for the team medic to assess the situation. Suspects down, one officer confirmed. Both restrained. Medical attention. Get someone for the dog. Another yelled. Axel, sensing the danger had passed, slowly released his grip. He stepped back, blood dripping from his shoulder and his mouth, chest heaving. With labored breath, he turned toward Logan's room and limped back inside. The bed was stained with blood. Axel's blood. The dog collapsed beside Logan's wheelchair, resting his head on the metal frame. Logan looked down, one trembling hand reaching toward the battered coat of his friend. You did it, Axel, he whispered, his voice cracking. You held the line. Axel blinked slowly. He did not move, but his eyes never left his Marine. And his mission, though it had nearly cost him everything, was complete. The investigation unfolded quickly in the days that followed. Once the two attackers were in custody, federal authorities arrived at the hospital, along with a small contingent from the Department of Defense. Logan, though still confined to his hospital bed, was given a full debrief. He answered every question with clarity, precision, and a quiet resolve hardened by years of service. It did not take long for the truth to surface. The two men were confirmed mercenaries, ex-military now, operating under private contracts with no formal ties to any government. They had been hired to eliminate Logan before he could testify in a high-security trial set for the following week in Washington, D.C. The trial involved the leak of highly sensitive military intelligence regarding drone operations. overseas. Data that only a handful of people had access to. Logan was the key witness. His testimony would reveal who had sold encrypted targeting information to foreign buyers. Someone somewhere had decided he would not live long enough to speak. No one expected him to fight back, and no one could have predicted he would be defended by a battered, aging German shepherd whose combat days were supposed to be over. But Axel had not forgotten, even after the war, even after the injury, even after years. Without hearing the command, he had remembered. Logan was immediately transferred to a secure military facility under federal protection. Axel, too, was moved, this time to a specialized veterinary wing within a nearby army base where combat-injured working dogs were treated. The cut on his shoulder required 12 stitches. The muscle damage would take weeks to heal, but the attending veterinarian made it clear Axel had the heart of a soldier still, and he would recover. The story made headlines within days. A paralyzed Marine, a late-night assassination attempt, a forgotten dog who fought like a warrior. By the end of the week, news crews camped outside the gates of the recovery center. Interviews were requested. Journalists begged for a glimpse of the dog who had defied odds and defended his handler like a brother. In arms, a press event was arranged. Under a white tent on the lawn outside the medical center, Logan sat in his wheelchair, dressed in formal service attire. Axel lay at his side now, cleaned, bandaged, and wearing a military green harness with a silver medallion stitched to the side that read, K9 veteran, active duty, retired. Cameras flashed as Logan wheeled himself forward and faced the rows of microphones. He did not speak for long. I served with men who would take bullets for each other, he began, voice steady. Men who would hold the line even when they had nothing left to give, but I have never seen loyalty like this. He looked down at Axel, who lifted his head slightly at the sound of his voice. I taught him to trust the mission, Logan said, eyes glistening. But what he never forgot was to protect the man. The crowd fell silent. Then, from the side of the platform, a uniformed officer stepped forward with a red velvet box in hand. Reporters. From the back row, Logan wheeled forward, dressed in his formal blues, the creases pressed sharp and crisp. At his side walked Axel, his coat fuller now, his gait stronger, the thin scar on his shoulder still visible, but healed. They moved together down the center aisle. Silence fell on the platform. Logan took the microphone. He was broken once, he said quietly, looking down at Axel, but he never broke his promise. Not a word more was needed. After the applause faded, Logan returned to his seat beneath the tree. Axel settled beside him, body curled, head resting lightly against the wheel of Logan's chair. They watched as the flag above them caught the light fluttering gently over the rows of those who never came home. No one spoke, but in that quiet between man and dog, between sacrifice and memory, there was peace, and a promise still kept. Thank you for joining us on this powerful journey of courage, sacrifice, and unwavering loyalty. The story of Logan and Axel is not just about a Marine and his dog. It is about the promises we make, the ones we keep, and the silent heroes who never stop protecting us even when the world thinks their duty is done. If this story moved you, inspired you, or reminded you of the quiet strength behind every loyal paw, then stay with us. Subscribe to Amazing Paw Stories for more true stories of love, resilience, and the unbreakable bond between people and their four-legged protectors. Because here at Amazing Paw Stories, we believe some heroes wear uniforms and some walk on four legs. We'll see you in the next story.